Hi there. I just wanted to make a little video to say thank you for everybody who made we're jokingly calling it my graduation party this past week. So wonderful because it was. I really appreciated everything that went into that from so many people. Some of you traveled in to be with us in person. Some came in person, and some people, there were people talking on the Zoom video from work in uniform, and that was really touching, like interrupting their work days and things like that um, to excuse me, tell me congratulations. That was really great. It was really wonderful to connect to so many people. um, so one of the things that came up was a lot of people really didn't understand what the initiation into eldership was. So I wanted to take a second to explain that for people who didn't quite understand. I didn't realize that was a cultural thing. I should have. It's so obvious, but it just didn't even cross my mind. And at the end of going into this whole thing, in our way of thinking, if you are something inside, that's nice. That's half of what it takes to be something. But actually doing it in the world is the other half. Like, for instance, you might be a mother in your heart, or you might be a father in your heart, but if you never have children and you never mentor anyone, you're not actually acting out being a mother or a father. So are you really? And with eldership or being an herbalist or really anything else in life, your feelings are only half of it, your personal transformation is only half of it, your personal experience is only half of it. You are that thing as long as you hold that position in a community. And that's really important too, because if you're harmful or bad at what you do and the community rejects you, that's the end of it. You're not guaranteed to hold some sort of community position for forever just because you've done the work for it, So we would frequently have some sort of presentation of the person to the families or to the community or whatever. And of course, so much of this, I'm the first one that this is happening with in America. And I might be the last. We're not sure. But how do you translate all of this to America has been an extra challenge that a lot of people have given me a lot of help with, where I'm going like, okay, how do we do this thing? And then someone says, oh, it's really obvious, this. And it's definitely been a team effort getting me here. So what that actually means is, going through all of this work, having this path set in front of me. And what I want you to understand is the eldership is, that's a new word within the last 2 generations for it. But what it really is you're taking your place in the community. And, people debate if it's a new word in the last 2 generations, but you're taking your place in the community. And it also involves making it through an initiation, and you have one shot at this ceremony. And the ceremony happens when a specific star system shows up in the sky, usually July or August, in your 30th year. You have one shot at this. And if you don't make it, that's it. Over there in the old days, if you will. If you failed, you were put in a boat without oars and shoved off to sea. Because if you can't live your life and fulfill what you contribute into the community, then why are you here? So one of the things is, and maybe God has an idea for you somewhere else, so we're giving him a chance to do something with that, but obviously you're not meant to be here, so goodbye. And when we talked to my spirits here, and was like, alright, so there is no coastline here in Pittsburgh, right? There's the river, but what happens if I don't make it? Their response was that all of it would just go. That all of the things that my entire life is would go. And it was interesting to kind of sit with what would my world look like. And what a lot of people don't realize is this path is not something that you choose. The the best way I can describe this to people who don't live this is that it's an energy that's passed every second generation through specific families. It attaches to the ovaries and the uterus of a person. So they have to be either intersex or trans or female. And they have to maintain that because the energy connects to that. And if you try to put this in a body that doesn't have those organs, you start to see the body overwhelmed with energy. The person starts to die. So it's big energy, and it's passed every second generation. And what a lot of people don't realize is it goes to the oldest person with those organs. I don't want to limit it to females because I'm not fully female. Being biologically both, like, I don't think of myself as female. So, yeah. So, when this passes, and it can only pass at the age of 7 or older, because otherwise you once again overwhelm the nervous system and the person doesn't make it, and you overwhelm the immune system as well. The person doesn't make it. So what people don't realize is this was not originally passed to me. This was passed to first my 2 sisters and then one of my nieces. And they failed. They actually didn't make it to the initiation before failing. My first sister was not able to carry it past being a teenager. My second sister didn't make it through her 20s. They never even made it to the initiation. My niece didn't make it through her teens with the amount of challenges and pressure and energy and strain that goes into all this. It's very difficult from the moment this comes to you until you pass it. And it's a lot. So then I was conceived, and both my parents were past the age of being able to get pregnant or impregnate. And I came around. And got here. And with so many people dying and being in a country where the supportive physical locations aren't there, and it's just really remarkable to have even gotten this far and then to get through it. And one of the things that came about with my initiation, which I'm not familiar with happening with others, but I'm sure it has at some point. This goes way, way back. The anthropologists say this probably goes back to the Stone Age, but I don't know how I feel about all that. Just the incredible lack of support and in the last 6 years of how much had to be done. And then for me, part of what this was, which was different, was it was more of a process. Yes, there was like the big, ceremony initiation thing. Mine actually lasted more than a week. We could argue more like 2 weeks. I've never heard of that. It's always been like a one-night event to 3 days kind of thing. They kept like putting me under and bringing me back up and putting me under and bringing me back up. So in a lot of ways, like my spiritual relationships showed their gentleness, and it was really beautiful. Norm and Amy really supported me with all of that. At one point, we needed to keep a fire constantly burning for quite some time, and they went and they just had to go on this ongoing search for wood for a while, for the right wood, and they did that, So it's so funny how you spend so much time completely alone, and that God doesn't abandon. So if you find yourself in these places where you're like, I can't take another step, but there's no help, and therefore I must be able to step forward, right? But to get to places where you truly can't, and someone else shows up, So we reached out to the people that we felt were a part of that for the past, I mean, all of you for the past 6 years. And pretty much none of the people in my life now have been there a whole lot longer than that. There's a few, but I mean, fewer than 12, you know, in any capacity of any relationship. And, we're not quite done. You know, part of this was there was a process of things that had to be done. My initiation happened in August, and here we are, mid-November, and we're just finally allowed to talk about it. I was given my final name. I don't want to put that in the video, because once you make a video, you have no idea whose hands it's going to get into, right? So I'm trying to, like, balance what's appropriate to talk about and what's not going to hurt other people, right? But if you were invited to our gathering or the Zoom call or whatever, I'm more than happy. I obviously trust you a lot, and I'm more than happy to talk about any of this stuff with you. But there's been a process of things that needed done. So things going forward, what we're looking at now, we could use a lot of prayer cover, really, or ceremony or whatever you do. Prayers on the smoke kind of thing, whatever. We're building a ceremonial space in the backyard. It is going well. It's going really well. It's going to be beautiful. There's also going to be, I'm putting together an ebook on how we're doing this to make a space that transmutes energy and in the way that we're doing it. And it's really it's really interesting. It had its first visitor outside of the three of us that live here and are maintaining the space last week. Yeah, last week. And it was so funny because across the street is a school, and they decided to have big band practice. And the guy, my neighbor, directly across from my house, decided to clean off his roof with a leaf blower. And there was someone who came out of their house across the street in the other direction. We're on a corner house. The other direction decided to vacuum out her car, and then the dog next door that I share a fence with decided to bark solidly. And she went down to the tree, and she was down there about a half hour, and when she came back up, she was like, was all this noise happening while I was down there? I mentioned, I told her how funny it was. Of course, all of this and this start as soon as you go down to the tree. And she was like, whoa, I didn't even hear any of that until you just pointed it out just now. And I was like, yes, it's working, you know, but you have to set up the energy right and anchor it right so that you can create these spaces that are that energetically safe, that the sound doesn't come through, that the people who want to, you know, come in and interrupt the ceremony can't get in, you know, or harmful people can't get in. You got to really be able to work energy, and you got to do good stuff. So it's been, so that could use some prayer cover, always, for forever. And we're going to have a little ebook come out for people to build them themselves if they want to. Because what we're finding is the directions we've gotten for this, you don't need to be an energy worker to do it. There are certain things included in our directions, and this is not the first time that one of these has been built. They've been built all over the world, in different places, mostly through Asia and Europe. And we're doing something that is distinctly American. This is the first time I know of it being done in the United States. So it's it's interesting. We're looking forward to sharing that with you. Another thing is my name change has been legally initiated. That's a process. It's also a process that could technically be void on the judge's decision based on the fact that I'm intersex. That can be taken as fraud. So it's complicated. Going into that's not really appropriate in a thank you video. But, I mean, I'm willing to talk to you about it. But prayer coverage on that could be really helpful. We're moving forward with getting the land and building the... we're calling them refuges. We're not calling them church. There's a lot involved there. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of funding. There's a lot of building. There's just a lot. So any good vibes you can send that way would be great. You're the people that I trust the most. The last thing that I wanted to say, I want to keep this under 15 minutes. Looks like I might be about there. The last thing that I wanted to say was, besides thank you to everyone here, and I thought about including everyone's names, but the list was too long, and that was incredible. And one of the amazing things about that so often when I'm in Pittsburgh, and almost none of you were in Pittsburgh. Okay. And so often when I look around in Pittsburgh, I'm like, we're so alone here. What are we even doing? And we're only here because our spiritual direction has said, hey, look, this place is extremely toxic and it's also energetically extremely important. And we need to really plant the light here, kind of thing. Plant the healing here and hold it. And it's been a fight since I came here 6 years ago this month. It's been a solid fight just for the pollution's impact on our health and the politics here, and it's yeah. But what I wanted to say was, like, you can start to think that you're attacked from every side and that you're alone, and having this list that's like, I can't even just roll call names in this video because we'll be here all night, and they're all over the United States and they're all over the world. But some of the people that weren't included in our celebration simply because they live too remotely for us to acknowledge them, I wanted to acknowledge them for a second. I just kind of wanted to say thank you to all of you, and also to the Darkhead elders and their wives out in Mongolia, who made my armor and enabled me to do some of the ceremonial work that I do in a safe way. I wanted to say thank you to the Quechua and several other groups of elders and storytellers down in Peru and Bolivia and Ecuador, who helped me in the very beginning of initiating this whole thing. One guy was like, hey, you're going to South America and you're going to Europe, but how? How are you going to do that with, like, no budget and no health? I don't understand. But it's been a ride, right? I also wanted to give a nod to some of the self-declared gypsies in Wales who've helped me out, and England, and the Shahi, and other people. I'm not entirely sure what to call them. Let's just stick with storytellers or Shawnee. Or Shahi, depending on which group you're talking to, in Ireland, who've helped me out. Yeah, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for making it beautiful. I'm going to keep the tape for forever. I hope you guys play it at my funeral someday. Amy laughed at me for going straight to the funeral. She was like, why don't we pull this out in 5 years and see how we changed? And I was like, well, I'm hoping I'll play it at my funeral and remind people that they liked me. But yeah, it was really special, and just thank you so much. Thank you for being part of all of this. I did get a new name. I don't think I'm ready at this time, or it's appropriate at this time to put it out there publicly. I'm kind of telling people quietly. People who have been on this crazy ride long enough already knew what it was going to be because we were told 10 years ago, when I was given Laughing Crow. So for now, I'm just going to be removing any of the mess and any of the energy worker names from any of my presences, and keeping it kind of on the low key. But of course, if I'm talking to you in this video, ask me over a drink sometime, and I'd be happy to tell you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, evening, whatever it is where you are, and hopefully I'll see you again soon in person.